Hello. This is a 2014, or it might be 2013 NC700X that I bought a couple of weeks ago. And so here's a video on it. Now, I was actually gonna I made the video last Saturday, but a couple of things have happened since then. The first thing is I've put about 700 or 800 miles on this, so I have a lot more idea of what it is to ride it. And the second thing is I spent about an hour on a CB500X on Wednesday. Yeah, yesterday. So got a bit of valid comparison there. So anyway, let's talk about this. NC700X came out in 2012, I believe. So what is it? 700cc or 680 something. 700cc, parallel twin. I'm guessing it's got 4 valves per cylinder. I don't know. I don't know that. I haven't looked. Fuel injected. You know, 2-cylinder motorcycle. You know, let's go through it front to back, the spec. So on the front you've got a 17-inch front wheel with a single caliper, disc, rotor, whatever, and the wheel's about a 120/70. It's funny, it's got ZR rated tyres on it, which are rated for, you know, 150 or 160 or some number like that. Good luck getting that out of an NC700X. Liquid cooled, so we got a radiator up the front there. Some people say that the engine is half of a Honda Fit, which is some like wanky little Honda car. Other people have said that's a load of bollocks, but there is some crossover on the specifications. So that might well be so. I don't know. But anyway, it's that little, look how the motor's sloping forward there, and it's got a very big sump, a very big engine. So it does sit forward quite a lot. Radiator there, horn in a very funny place, and some protection, and you got an exhaust pipe with, you probably just see that. Can't see it. Catalytic converter, is that big lump right there. You know, just conventional forks with pretty much, I'm sure, zero adjustment. So zero adjustment on this forks, and it is one of the weaker points of it is the suspension. You know, single headlight, mini screen, same master cylinder as on my ST1100, I think. You know, this one has heated grips, which are a Honda option, which I don't actually like, and I'll tell you why, because the grips themselves are just too thin. You don't kind of get your hands around them. Little digital display here, which is actually quite nice. I'll just turn it on. But you've got all your idiot lights up the top, and then you've got a clock, you've got a couple of trip meters and a mileometer, you've got a speedometer, you've got the rev counter going across here, and then you've got a fuel gauge. And the fuel gauge is kind of, sometimes it reads, I know it changes a lot. Anyway, chain drive. This bike has no electronics, and okay, let me redefine that statement. This bike has no electronic control system, so it has like no traction control, no ABS, and this is not a DCT. This is not a dual clutch model. This is a conventional manual shifting motorcycle, I say, with no rider aids such as, you know, traction control and anti-lock brakes, stuff like that. 6-speed gearbox, so it's a 6-speed transmission. Uses them all. It's got a 4-gallon tank, and I'll show you the tank. Here we go. Oh, shit. This fucking locks are shite. This actually isn't the tank. This is the frunk. So this is a dummy tank, front trunk, I guess is what they mean. And you can fit all kinds of shit in here. You can get a full face lid, I believe. I've not tried it, but I do know you can get a gallon of milk, 2 pounds of apples, a pound of bananas, a thing of bacon, and a big bag of oranges in it, which I did last week. So that's really good. That opens off the top. And here is the gas tank, and it's at the back here. Hang on. Fucking, I have to say though, you know, there's a bit of a cheap feel to this, and these fucking locks are fucking shite. Yeah, maybe needs some lube. Anyway, here's where the gas tank lives, right in there. So it's got just a shade under a 4-gallon gas tank that lives under there. So it's under your arse basically, and under the rear seat. 17-inch rear wheel, single disc at the back. Monstrous silly light which is going, and it did have this big hanging thing down. The only mod I've made to this is remove the big hangy downy thing, because I thought it looked gay. Sorry, I can't say that anymore. Thought it looked a bit too metrosexual. So yeah, single disc at the back, conventional steel box section swing arm, little 520 chain on it, looks like. And the only real mod this has is it has a pipe on it. So this is a Danmoto pipe. It's middle of the range, so it's like $150, $175 pipe. So it's not like the $50 hollow tube you get off eBay from someplace in China. But equally, it's not the $450 Yoshimura, Delkovich, or some other pipe. And I have to say, I don't see the value in buying a $450 N can. I don't know what the fuck they're made out of. But having worked in manufacturing a long time and know just how cheap these things are to make, that's a hell of a markup. So, you know, nice little 700cc twin. It's an all-purpose bike. If you're looking for something with a hatful of power, look somewhere else. So the motor produces, and these are paper figures, 52 horsepower and 48 foot-pound of torque, and we'll talk about later. But what that means is, let me see my crib sheet here, what I was going to talk about. What that means is very easy to ride. So it's a superbly easy to ride bike. Again, just conventional steel handlebars. You know, there's nothing. It's just a motorbike in every sense of the word. So that's kind of what you're getting. How does it ride? Well, somebody told me that it's very, very tuned for fuel economy, and I think that the two tanks I've put in it, I've got it between 73 and 76 to the gallon, right? So it's very good on gas. Now, there's a caveat with that, in that the speedometer is spot on, because I've kind of calibrated it against those signs that tell you how fast you're going. And, you know, 46 is 46, 23 is 23. So the speedometer is great. The odometer reads high, because on my commute, which everything else tells me is pretty much like 43 miles or 44 miles plus or minus a mile, this was reading 48. So I don't know what I don't know what the correction is for that, because it's probably got an electronic speedo drive that works off the front sprocket. And if you put like a speedo healer on it to change the miles, you'll change the miles an hour. And at the moment, the miles an hour are bob on. So my 76 to the gallon might be closer to 70, but even still, that's a good figure. So what's it like to ride? Well, it's a torquey bike. It's got that low red line of 6,500 RPM, and go about 500 over that, and it goes blah, blah, blah. It's got a very abrupt rev limiter. It's an easy bike to ride at 480 pounds. It's pretty flickable. This has got Metzler tires on it. I don't know if they were the stock tire in 2013. Something tells me that they weren't, but I don't know. I haven't researched it, and I can't be asked. But anyway, they're okay. You know, brakes are good. So it's got a single disc on the front, and some people say, oh, it's not enough. Oh, you need at least 2 discs. Well, that's bollocks, because actually it stops really, really, really well. And there's some test figures out there that shows you that this stops better than an F800 GS, which is a bit of a competitor to this. So I say it's very, very lazy to ride. You just got that kind of constant torque delivery. If you ride it between like 4,000 and 5,500, it just has it just makes speed very, very nicely, if that kind of makes sense. It is 6-speed, but the six gear is very, very much an overdrive. So you know, if you're doing 60 mile an hour in 4th gear, you're doing a shade over 4,000 RPM, and if you kick it up a gear into 6th, it goes to 3,000 RPM. So it's very highly geared. It's certainly higher geared than my FJ12, my ST1100, my GSX-R 1000, and my F650 BMW. So it's very, very high geared in top, which is probably where it gets a lot of the fuel economy in. So it handles quite well. It's just nice to ride either round town or on the highway. It's not out of place doing 80, 85 on the interstate. I had it flat out on a pretty long straight, and I could get 102. I think I've seen on Finterweb that it said they do 115. You know, we're at altitude here, 5,000 feet. You lose some power. How much, I don't know, but you know, maybe that 5 or 6 horsepower you lose, or that 10%, which would be about 5 horsepower, maybe that you lose would make all the difference on the performance. So again, it's not a performance monster. It's not a wheelie monster. It's really a commuting bike, or maybe it's an adventure bike. So yeah, it's just pleasant to ride. The seat's a bit slopey. There's a very popular mod to pick the front of the seat up by about an inch, because you end up falling to what your balls end up about here. So I've got to do that mod, and I haven't done any modifications apart from take that back thing off that pipe was already done, and then I did put a bright headlight bulb in there. Nice cable operated clutch, and it's very, very easy to operate. There's no point in having a master cylinder and have hydraulics on a clutch when you can just have a cable that will do the same job. Engine wise, one of the things about these is it's got it's not bucket and shim tappets, it's conventional tappets, so it's lock, nut and screw adjusters. Okay, and they'd just be under the radiator, so I'm guessing you have to tilt the radiator or take it off to do that. Spark plugs are right there. These little buttons right here. It uses some funny little spark plug like CR9 IEH or something like that, some iridium shit. And I did buy a new pair of them because even though it's only done like 3,000 miles, it's what, 9 years old, 8 years old, so I'll get a new set. And how I ended up buying this was I was out for a ride with some guys the other weekend, and Greg from up at Interstate Honda in Fort Collins, who's a smashing bloke, and it's a Interstate Honda in Fort Collins, are a great place. He's got one of these that he kind of made into not a dirt bike, but a dual sport, and he put the tyres on it and bars and protection and stuff like that. And I had a ride in it, and I was just so surprised and pleasantly surprised the way it kind of floated over the gravel roads. Don't get me wrong, we weren't doing anything technical, and my technical days are over, but I thought it floated over the gravel really nicely. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll get one of these. And then he said, hey, we've got one coming in. So I basically got it for under $4,000 for about 3,800 bucks out the door from a dealer, 3,000 miles or slightly less, and 2013. So I thought it was a decent deal. And if you want to buy one of these, they're rarely sub 4,000. But then bikes are, getting good prices at the moment because of the COVID, and everybody wants to ride instead of going on holiday to like Spain or wherever. But I thought it was a reasonable deal, and you don't see that many of them for sale secondhand. Again, I'm not saying they aren't there. So it's nice to ride. But I would say this bike definitely is built to a price, maybe. Pressed steel brake lever. Switch gears a little bit cheesy. These ignition locks and these locks are really shitty. They bent the key, the original key, and I can exactly see how they've done it. So build quality is like, it's still a Honda, but it's all right. But the weak point of this, is the suspension. So the front suspension is what it is. I think there's zero adjustment here. So actually, it's good having Greg and him having one of these, because he's going to put Racetech Gold valve emulators or whatever, cartridge emulators in his, and he's going to upgrade the forks and see how that makes. And I can believe that it'll make a difference, because it's just the suspension just a little bit kind of, it's not as absorbing. It means it needs a stiffer spring and a bit more damping in it. And the same for the rear shock. There's various rear shocks out there. You can get Cogent, you can get I don't know, Olin's. You can probably get a whole pile of stuff. You can actually put like CBR shocks on it and stuff like that. Again, so there is a wealth of knowledge on these. So there's a pretty big forum on Adventure Rider. There's a whole NC700X owners forum, and there's actually the English NC700X forum owners, out there as well. So a lot of knowledge. Performance upgrades are very few and far between on this. Look, if you wanted to take the head off and skim it and power commander it and do that shit, if they do a power commander, there is a module available. You could probably do that, but basically this has got a slip-on pipe. I'm going to put a K&N filter in it. It was about 65 bucks for the K&N, but I did get one. I'm going to put that in it. I'm going to cut off a bit of the snorkel as well, because apparently that's there just for noise emissions. But also, you can get a straight-through pipe, which will remove the cat, and then they say, oh, it flows better. And there's some people say it makes no difference, and some people say it gives it a lot more, or just a little bit of snap off the throttle, a little bit more instantaneous pickup. I don't know, so I'm not sorry. I'm going to put the K&N filter in it and hack out the airbox and see what happens. So that's the bike. Like I said, 100 mile an hour, cruise along at 85 pretty easily. But one of the reasons one of the reasons I deleted that other video was because I had a ride on a CB500X, and the two bikes mine a similar vein. They mine a similar vein, but they're actually very different. So let's just do that for a minute. So NC700X, 51 horsepower, CB500 48. Torque is I think 48 foot-pound on this and 32 on the 500X. The weight of this, I think, is 480, and the 500X is 430, and I think that's dry weight. But anyway, it's a 50-pound delta. Gas tank is slightly bigger on the 500X. It's like 4.5 gallons instead of 3.7. So again, it gives you maybe an extra 50, 60 miles in the tank. So you know, and then, but they got the same. In fact, they've actually got the same wheels and the same brakes. Okay, yeah, I know that the 2019 500X has a 19-inch front wheel, whatever. You know, so they're a very similar bike. Say this is slightly heavier and torquier. But a big difference is the motor. And yeah, some people rave on about this. I think it made no fucking difference. But the valves on the 500X are bucket and shim, and on these they're lock nut. You know, you don't have to adjust them that often, I wouldn't have thought. But I don't think it doesn't make any difference in my book. But the big thing is, the 500X revs to about 8,500, and this revs to about 6.5. So what that means is you have to screw the 500X a lot more. So a guy at work bought one about 2 months ago. I went with him to get it, and it was a nice little bike. But we rode the two of them side by side yesterday, and I have to say it made me feel I'd made the right choice by getting this. Now the CB500X is an excellent motorcycle. A lot of people, you know, swear by it, but to me, I mean, it's smaller, lighter. I think it turned a bit better than this thing, but I thought it was underpowered. You have to wring its neck to get going. It doesn't have the throttle response in any gear, and I can imagine that you know, at 85 mile an hour you might be running out of steam. Now, if you're a CB500X owner and want to object and leave some sort of nasty comment, that's fine. I mean, but I just, like I said, having rode the two back to back, I think this is a better motorcycle, and this is more of what I want out of a motorcycle. The specs are very similar, like I said, apart from the motor delivery, really, and the running, the chassis is very similar. So it's smaller and lighter and less powerful. So, you know, it's this bike's little brother, and so all the differences are pretty much what you'd expect. Like I say, not quite as fast, not as good off the throttle, handles a little bit better. All right, so QED. So anyway, like I said, I know there's a lot of CB500X owners out there who have got them and love them. There's a lot of people who've adventurized them, and they really like that. And good for you. I'm not saying it's not a bad bike, but you know, and I rode one a year ago and I didn't buy it. And the guy's like, "Why don't you want to buy it?" It's like, can't be arsed. I've got too many bikes. But the truth was, it didn't really. I thought it didn't really wow me enough. It reminded me of the time when I was looking to buy a CRF 250 or 450X, and I ended up buying the 450, which was the right move. But I rode the 250 because everybody said it was a really good machine, but I just felt it was underpowered, and I felt I'd be on top of it too much and always wringing its neck and stuff. And I turned out to love the 450X nearly as much as I love my, hang on, here we go, look at them, Panzer tank slippers. So the 88mm has got a bit of a droop on it there, but I had somebody at work make these for them, so I've got a pair of Panzer tank slippers on, which are fucking great. So anyway, that's the comparison with the 500X. I would encourage you to ride them both. They're both very meritorious motorcycles. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this into an adventure bike. I've kind of got my BMW, but I've fallen out of love with that a little bit because I'm struggling to get the carburation right, and I have tried, and I've made it better, but it's not as good as I think it could be. So maybe I need to get it on a dyno, but it's like an hour and a half to get the carbs on and off, which is a real pig. And it jumps out of second gear, which is a real bastard. So when I ride this and I slip into second, it's always a pleasant surprise when it doesn't jump out. But I'm gonna make this into an adventure bike. So there's many facets of being an adventure bike, or you know, dual sport, whatever you want to call it. So, you know, and I tried not to order loads of stuff for it right off the bat, but I failed terribly. So I've got an SW, so one element's protection. So I've got some Givy crash bars. Actually, they're here in the kayak. These are an inflatable kayak. They were $100 at Walmart about 4 months ago when I bought a pair of them, and now they're about $400 because supply and demand, right? Everything's out on the water. So these are the Givy crash bars that I haven't put on yet. So I've got Givy engine bars, and again, they're not going to save your life when you're sliding down the road and protect your legs. That's not the idea, but the idea is that when you spill this bike on the backcountry discovery route and there's some rocks and boulders around, it's not going to bang up your bodywork as good, and it's not going to punch your engine casing. So in terms of protection, I've ordered some handguards for it. I've ordered a SW Motec big bash plate for it. I've got those Givy crash bars. I've got a finest cheap Chinese headlight protector which is coming, and a radiator guard as well. So that's the kind of protection for what I'm going to do. I've ordered some SW Motec foot pegs, which are going to be about twice as wide, and they're also going to drop down 15 millimeters, so a little bit more stability. And you can peel the rubber off as well off those. I think they're called ION, so you can peel the rubber off them, and the metal jaws will interface directly with your big feet in your big boots. I've also ordered a tail tidy, so I'm getting rid of this monstrosity here, and a little tail light will bolt under here. I'm going to replace the turn signals with small ones that again won't get broken as much when this thing goes down. I've also ordered a tank bag. Now the tank bags, no, it's not a scratch. Tank bags on these, you know, they can't be magnetic because that's plastic, and there's and if you put the straps under there, you might lose the seal in the trunk. I bet you probably won't, but anyway, so so in 2016, I think, or 15, they changed these to have a hole in them here and here, and you can fit the straps underneath. So I'm going to get, so Givi make a particular tank bag for this. So I've ordered one anyway, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt it through, going to make some holes and bolt it through and bolt it onto there. Because even though I like the frunk and it's good and you can get gear in it, the problem is if you stop, you have to take the key out, and then you have to open it. Say some people, but you could take that key and make a little cap and put it on there and permanently lock it in. Yes, I know that, and I probably will do it. But I still like the convenience of a tank bag. So I'm going to get a tank bag. It's already got heated grips. It's got a 12-volt power port in there. I'm not going to change the handlebars. I don't dislike the handlebars. So I have changed the headlight bulb. I've put one of those PIAA high intensity bulbs in it, which has made a bit of a difference to the light. I'm not going to put a taller screen on it yet, but if I do some serious touring and think where it's going to rain, you can get various screens that are a good kind of like 8 inches higher. What else am I going to do to it? Yeah, I thought about getting that straight through pipe for the to get rid of the cat. And before people say, oh, the environment and all that carbon monoxide going in there, this thing does 70 miles to the gallon. You know, that thing does about 25, that does about 20. You know, my old Ford truck does 6 at the moment. We'll work to do on that. So it's 275 bucks, and I don't know whether to actually spend that money and whether it'll be worth it. But I'll put the K&N filter in and do a bit to the airbox and see where that gets us. I'm also going to get some throw over pannier bags, right, to go here. Just some racks, but I prefer soft bags if you're going on the dirt rather than hard saddlebags. My fear is that they'll always break the mounts on those if you have a crash and you won't be able to recover. Now here's something though, when you get a rear rack, it sits from here to about here, right? Again, it's very sticky outy because you need access to the, see if it'll open this time, fucking thing. Yeah, okay, maybe I'll just lube those, but you need access to this. So there's a couple of solutions. I thought either somebody makes a plate that replaces the rear seat with a plate, because I'm never going to take a pillion, right? I'm never going to take a pillion. Or I thought I could make instead of having the hinge there, I could put a bar across here, and I have a tongue I can slip under there, and then it wouldn't be held out by the hinge. You'd just like click that, and you just click that, and then so you click it open. It's the master plan, and then just slide the seat off. So I don't know what I'm going to do there, but I'll do something to give it some luggage carrying capacity. So that's about it, really. I mean, I've done a lot of reading on this on old Thinterweb. Oh, I say I'm probably going to, if Greg gives favourable results on the front forks, I will probably upgrade the front forks as well with those Racetech gold cartridge valve emulators or whatever they are. And then tyres, I'm going to put on either, is it Kenda big blocks or Continental big blocks or Shinko 705s or 804s, but I'm going to put some fairly chunky dual sport tyres on it. No brake upgrades to the brakes or the controls or anything like that, you know, and I'm going to do this seat mod to tilt the seat forward. So having done a lot of reading on these, I would say that there's very, very few issues with them. There seem to be very, very few recalls, and somebody might say, oh, on the 2015 there was a recall for the back tyre or something like that. That might be true, but largely there's not a whole pile of problems with these. You read the occasional one on the forums where something's happened, but shit happens, right? So in terms of reliability, it comes with Mr. Honda's uber reliabilityness. So that's kind of all I've got really. So basically, what have you got? You've just got a good, reliable, nice, light, easy to ride motorcycle yeah, that's it. You're not going to do 150. You're not going to be pulling wheelies, stoppies, or any other stunty type stuff. But it's just a nice little all-rounder. Competitors, well, maybe the SV650 and the, you know, the little V-Strom and the whatever, the Versys, the Kawasaki and whatever the other people make. But I actually don't think that they have Revier engines. Just hang on 1 minute. Sorry, my trousers fell down. Lost a bit of weight. And when I was fat, I pinged the button off, and now it's not there. They keep falling down. So like I said, it doesn't really compare to the Versys and stuff like that because they have more powerful, more Revier engines. Really, it's more of a comparison against some of the BMW singles that are out there. So. You know, in terms of horsepower and weight and stuff like that, I just think it's an excellent motorcycle. As soon as I rode it, I thought, I think I'm going to get me one of these. And like I said, I thought I'd pick one up cheap over winter, but then this came along and I bought it, and I'm really, really pleased that I did. I say I haven't really found anything I don't like about it. I'd like a bit more snap off the throttle. That doesn't mean I need more power, but just a bit more reaction. But like I said, we're at 5,000 feet here, so that might be all the difference, right? So anyway, yeah, there it is. That's the bike in a nutshell. There's a bit of neighbourhood action going on over there. So that's the bike in a nutshell. I think I've given you a count. I mean, you know, the specs, what it's like to ride, comparison to the 500X, how to adventurize it. So what I'm going to do is I think it will probably be ready to go on the dirt, you know, the spring of next year or something like that. So I'll take another video when I've put all these things on and made all these modifications and stuff, and hopefully when I've used it a little bit in the dirt as well. You know, there is there is a generation 2 of this apparently. Apparently, I got a facelift in 15 or 16, stuff like that. And oh, my dog's barking. Hang on, Tetley. He's deaf, so I shout at him and it doesn't really make any difference. Let's see. So they're an upgrade, and I believe that the display has like MPG and a bit more computerism on it, but I don't know about that. I haven't really researched that too much. But I think, you know, if you bought a 2020 one of these or 2021, I believe it would be largely the same as this. So again, no real difference in model years there. So it's not like there's a particular one to look for, right? You know. So yeah, so that's it. So like I said, just a good all round motorcycle. You know, I'm pleased I bought it. I can see myself keeping this one, and I mean that actually. Even though I buy and sell a lot, and there's a lot of bikes come through this year, I think I'll keep this one. I'll wear these tyres out commuting, then I'll put some adventure tyres on it with dirt tyres. Anyway, I commuted on this morning, and on the way home I got it up to miles an hour, and it was like trying to pull my head off. But it does have a square back tyre now, which makes it a bit tippy. So I need to fix that. Anyway, so Honda NC700X has changed to the 750X. Very, very recommended motorcycle. Like I said, do your research, plenty of information out there, and go out and buy one. So happy riding, all right? It's a beautiful evening here in Colorado, and I'm going to have some beer.